Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Innovation Room podcast. I'm Tori Homan, and I'm here with my co-host Rhianon Huff. Today, we are talking all about kind of the top questions that we hear as a national sign company that also handles national repairs, and just questions we get when it comes to handling signage projects, permitting, manufacturing installation, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, as a sign company, we get asked a ton of different questions from a ton of different industries, ton of different clients. So this is something that we wanted to kind of compile that list of most frequently asked questions. So hopefully what we'll discuss today can help you out in your sign buying journey or vetting a new sign vendor. And we're just really excited to dive in.
Y'all, we are so excited to welcome our very own Lisa Keeble to the podcast this week. Lisa is one of our national sales executives. She is amazing at building partnerships with our national clients. And she actually began her career in the signage industry with North American Signs as a project manager. And so she has definitely seen the business kind of from every angle. She loves to build relationships with her clients, and she just loves to help them really build their brands and build their brand integrity through that quality signage. So, Lisa, welcome to the podcast.
I thank you for that glowing introduction, Tori. I'm happy to be here. It's my first time, so I'm excited.
So, for our first, we're kind of going through what are the top things that we get asked as a national sign company. And the first thing that I want to kind of talk about is just project scope. And signage is really one of those industries that you don't think about it until you either work in it or you have to figure out how to get signage for your business. And so we just want to talk through again some of those top questions that our teams just get asked when it comes to branding your location. So, first question that we hear a lot is, can your company support the scope of my project? And then there are other questions that trickle down from this one, like what's the standard lead time for a project, things like that. So, Lisa, when clients are asking about scope, what do we say?
So typically when people are reaching out to me to find out, whether or not we could take them on as a new client, well, that is one of the first questions I get. And it can be a lot of things. I mean, scope could be the type of signage that they're looking for. Is it something we've done before, where I have to give examples of clients I have produced that for? Or it could be in relation to the size of their project, like how many locations they're trying to get done in this amount of time. Has our company ever handled anything like that? What that look like for us? Is it going to be a situation where if we do bring them in and it's a large project, what kind of attention are they going to get? Is it going to disrupt our business, or are they going to take a back seat to somebody else? Those are usually typically the questions that I'm going to get right off the bat when they're interviewing me to find out whether or not, they think comfortably that our company can take them on.
Right.
So,
Right.
Lisa, I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here and kind of be the role of the client because that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. So, just for our listeners, as somebody coming in who is questioning, their scope and whether we can handle it, what are some things that you recommend them asking us? Or what information do you need as that person who is deciding whether a good fit for us? What do you need from that very basic beginning conversation?
Very basic beginning conversations for me when I'm trying to qualify a client is, first of all, what type of signage are we talking about? Because that's going to then give me an idea of what lead times are involved, because that's also a question that's going to come up. So I need to know, A, what are you trying to do? How quickly are you trying to do it? And at how many sites do you want me to get it done? So that's usually my first three questions that I'm going to ask, because I know what we can do in a comfortable time frame. So that's usually where I will start.
Perfect.
Right. Right. And like, this is coming from the marketing person, y'all. So this is someone who really doesn't know anything about signs. But I think one thing that we do see also is that, right, permitting, navigating variances is a large part of what we do. And that can also really impact your timeline. So, Lisa, can you speak to that too, just a little bit of how can that impact the ways that we have to navigate scope of project?
Oh, it totally impacts the scope of project. So typically
Yeah.
what I will let a client know when we're in our initial conversations, depending upon where they're planning on going. And that's, one of the first steps in the process is, where are your locations? because I know that permitting timelines in Chicago, in Florida, in New York City, you're looking at months, not weeks. And that can totally derail a client's timeline. When I do bring those things up, that the shock in their face that, oh my gosh, I was not, thinking about that. I was not accommodating that. Like, wait, what? So, but it really can impact a scope. So knowing exactly where they're wanting to go so that I'm giving them accurate information.
Exactly. And I think we see this too with we get requests for information about whether or not we can handle large scale rebrands. We're seeing it more and more. It's just different industries are maturing, business is shifting, people are needing to change their on-site branding. So, Lisa, where do we land on large scale acquisition rebrands?
Oh, I think we're in a great place with that. That's actually one of the niche things that I'm very proud to say we do very well. In the 90 years we've been in business, we have done major rebrands on acquisition, changing up their marketing and their signage for numerous clients over the years, past, present, and, hopefully future. But I would say that that is an area we definitely excel.
Yeah.
One thing that we've changed too is just even we've come together so much and bringing the different departments together to get those timelines for those large acquisitions and changeovers. So like my department on the national repair side will come in and debrand while Lisa can keep moving with her department on the rebrand and getting that new signage made and on the wall. So that's been something that's been really successful, and having those two departments work together and where we do what's best, or we do what we do best, I guess. On the national
Yeah.
repair side, we're really good at that debranding. Lisa's fantastic at the rebranding. So I
Yeah.
think that's been a big asset.
Oh, absolutely. And it definitely cuts our timelines tremendously. So, turning that portion over to national repairs. So we're basically running simultaneously together instead of trying to keep it all in one department and pushing out those timelines. So,
Yeah.
we have done that. It's been a recent change in the last couple of years, but it's been hugely effective.
Yeah, absolutely. So, want to dig into your side a little bit more. You work with at least a few different clients on preventative maintenance strategy. That's where you're getting some questions. And we've really seen that topic of preventative maintenance discussed in a lot of different industry circles. And that's obviously something that you highly, highly recommend to clients, especially
Yeah.
if they have a ton of locations and there's not always the ability to react super quickly and effectively. So, how does your team just handle kind of building out those preventative maintenance strategies for our clients' locations?
Sure. And we do get this quite often. Obviously, my department is typically your reactive. Something breaks, we fix it. That's what we're known for. That's what the repairs department does. However, we talk to our clients about a proactive maintenance plan right up front and ask what they've done in the past, how they handle repairs, what repairs did they typically see, what are the internal components of their sign. So are the majority of their signs still fluorescent, or we do have some neon? So first and foremost, I will ask questions regarding basically the past history for that client. Also, I'll need to know how many locations. And based on that, I usually develop a plan that is personalized to them in their needs and what their specific brand is looking for. For example, and we've talked about this multiple times, I have clients that even as simple as we take pictures quarterly, all their locations. So whether they have 300, 400, however many locations, we'll set up nighttime photo surveys. And a lot of times, and we've talked about this in the past again, where time changes. So with signage, sometimes when you have the daylight savings time and it's lighter longer, employees at the locations don't realize that their signs are out because when they leave, the signs aren't on yet. So just like that, that's something that a lot of times, again, we've talked about where a lot of people drive by locations. That nighttime signage shining bright and nice is very, very, very important to that client, that brand, knowing that that location is open, knowing that location is there. Sometimes people don't even realize a location is there until they drive by it and see that big sign at night and say, "Oh, I need to go there. I forgot that was there." So even if they're not open, it's top of mind in their priority. So again, building that specific preventative maintenance plan out for them. Some people,
Yeah.
it's just that photo survey. Then other clients, we go more towards cleaning. So it's photo surveys and cleaning. Some people, it is just the preventive maintenance in regards to, okay, we know that it's almost like a budget plan where we know we have this many locations that are fluorescent and we want to plan out how quickly we're going to turn those to LED. So again, it's very complex to very simple, but it's definitely very recommended from me right up front that they have some type of preventative maintenance plan. So I definitely suggest anybody that's listening talk to your signage provider about that.
Yeah. Well, and let me bat that question that you asked Lisa back to you, which is what questions would you recommend people ask when they're onboarding with somebody who's providing signage maintenance? Whether it's North American Signs, we're pretty great. So, check us out. But
Right.
but it no matter who your signage provider or maintenance provider is, what should they be having conversations about?
Obviously, letting them know how many locations, right? Signage maintenance and repairs are a little bit of a different beast compared to the new signage side. So we can start off on a smaller scale where a lot of times people really want to know, and this is a question I get asked, can we do a trial period? Can we see how your team works through from start to finish when we send you a work order, how that's accepted, what the communication is like, how you work through our internal system. So all of those, so that's a question that I get asked, and I don't think that's a bad idea. If you're able to try a sign company out and you can, absolutely. Sometimes I know even Lisa will do that on her side where they'll do a location from start to finish. And again, you really get to know almost the culture of that team, how they work, what they do, and then we'll build up. Another question is basically how much can you handle? So you have very, very large companies that have thousands of locations. How many of those can you take on? And I am very transparent with those clients right up front because whether people want to hear it or not, I'd rather somebody say that, hey, I can take 300 of those ongoing at any point in time than tell them that I can take all thousand locations at that given point in time and fail. That's not what I want to hear. So that's definitely something that you want to ask that thing company right up front is how many locations you can handle. Obviously, what is your scope of work? So a lot of times people get in with just a signage company and they're just looking at signage repairs, but there are other things that can fall under that umbrella, like minor electrical, awnings, interior electrical sometimes. So finding out what specifically is under their umbrella is always good. The other thing is knowing how many techs they have. So how quickly are you getting out to location? What does your emergency situation look like? If I have an emergency, a sign falling off the wall, what does that turn time look like? What are your turn times? So these are all, and there's even more than that. But really, I think that we specifically look for a partner. So it's really, I like to upfront get my team and maybe that potential client's team kind of together right off the bat and say, hey, let me introduce you. And this is more a little bit further into the process, but know who you're going to be working with. It's great to put a face with a name in regards to I'm project management on their side, working with project management on our side. They're the ones that are communicating. They're the ones that are talking every single day. So I would want to know as a client, what is your transparency? What is your communication process look like? And who's your team? I want to know who I'm working with.
We also get asked a lot of questions about our project management process. And we kind of touched on this in the last section, but we hear things like, how do you start a project? How are you going to communicate with me? Who am I working with? All of that kind of stuff. So Lisa, can you kind of just outline for us what our process looks like from the new signage side? How do we answer that question of how do you start a project?
So usually when I get asked that question, I go into the structure of how we work and let them know that this is our process. So I'm national sales. Underneath me will be a program manager. You're going to work with our project management department. So there is that structure of this is how your account is actually going to be handled internally. Now, as far as the project itself, I tell them that we will start with code check and then we will go into the survey and we'll get that information. We'll create artwork. We're going to do a proposed rendering of what that new signage is going to look like so you can see the old versus the new. From there, we're going to do landlord approval, client approvals. We're going to go into manufacturing, installation, final inspections. Our process and our goal is start to finish. My objective is to take it completely off your plate. Once you give me a location and an address, it's ours to own, and you're only going to hear from us once a week. That's my goal. That we are going to become that person for you. So that's typically how I will explain our internal process of how we will take their location from start to finish. and then answer any questions they have. And I also use Rhiannon's department as a selling point because not very many sign companies have an internal national repairs department. So that's an asset
Yeah.
for us as well. So that's part of my sales pitch when I'm telling them how we onboard new clients and what we have to offer. Because like I've said, not many company, I mean, everybody has project management, it's a thing now. Everybody's got project management. But the way that we are set up and the way that we are layered with the amount of people that they will have communication with, and they have a whole team working for them, I think gives a prospective client a better comfort level that, that it's not just one person involved. I'm not just dealing with one person or two people, that I have a whole team behind this project. So it's, they feel a little more special, I guess, paid attention to,
Well,
which is,
somebody always wonders, like, well, what if that person leaves? What are you going to do? What's your plan?
Yeah.
And honestly, that is a really good question when you are trying to vet a new sign company or to go to somebody is what is your backup plan? What if
Yeah.
things don't go as planned? Because it happens. We all know in this industry it happens. So what is your backup plan? What are you going to do? And that's a great question to answer. And it's good to know. It definitely gives clients peace of mind.
yeah, that there's more than one person involved, so like
Right.
Rhiannon said, if something falls through, it's not like their stuff is lost. There's numerous people involved in this project from start to finish. So
Exactly.
I just feel like it gives them a better level.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rhi, on your end, you get asked all the time, how are you going to handle an emergency work order? You've told me stories of someone like ramped up, hit my monument sign, went through the front of my building, or we crazy stuff that we've heard and seen. So when someone asks that, what does your communication process look like in an emergency situation? What are you going to say? How do you handle that?
We've talked so many times about like doing signage bloopers of
Yeah.
what we hear in the repairs department and things that happen. And, it's just so crazy. When you think of signage, you don't really think of emergency situations. I mean, especially my husband's a first responder. So, like, we argue all the time because, like, I'm not saving lives, but I'm saving sign lives. Okay. Like, it is serious business. And you never know. Those signs can get dangerous. So, yes, first and foremost, a lot of times we make sure that we talk to our clients ahead of time when we're first onboarding them of what is an emergency to you. Because again, depending on the client, that can vary. So it could be from, let's say, somewhere that's open later at night and their employees, their wall pack lights are out and it's an unsafe environment, or their parking lot lights are out and it's an unsafe environment. That's pretty high level on that emergency situation. If we have clients where something to do with their, again, electricity, that something is not working and something inside the building can't function because something is not working. So again, knowing right up front from your client, depending on what their actual location is and what they do there, what is considered an emergency to you. So then it's our jobs as project managers also, and on our side to basically put that into scenarios of, okay, we need to get there like within an hour, 24 hours, 48 hours. Usually, if something is qualified as an emergency repair, it usually has to do with some type of safety issue. So back to signage, if a sign is falling off the building, could potentially hurt somebody. If an awning is falling off the wall, if a sign is caught on fire, if a car has rammed a monument sign into the building and there's sparks flying. I mean, if there's a fire, I suggest you first and foremost call the fire department. Call 911. But it is our job. We have a 24-hour, and this is something that you should ask. We have a 24-hour emergency line. So any of our clients, if something happens in the middle of the night like that, where we need to get somebody out there as soon as possible or something is falling, that we have somebody on call 24 hours a day to answer those emergency calls. We also have, and that's for all across the country. So we do have that usually with an emergency work order that is truly a safety issue. We try to be on site anywhere from 2 to 4 hours at the longest. And sometimes that might look like the tech pulling the sign off the building just to secure it so there is no other issues. It's securing it back onto the building. Depending on what it is, we want a tech out there to assess it within hours. So that's the communication in regards to 24-hour and just communication process in general. Again, like Lisa said, we always have a team of repairs people, amazing chaos coordinators with every
Yeah.
single location. But I'm the director. We have that tier of if something happens, it's escalated. If something else happens, it's escalated. But also, once again, I ask the client, how do you want to be communicated with? Because I have some clients that say, no news is good news. As long as you're handling it and I know it's taken care of, I have 1,000 other things on my plate to deal with. Then I have other clients that they want spreadsheets, weekly spreadsheets of where the locations are, what's the latest status update. Then I have other clients that say, hey, as long as you're communicating with me through our system, whether it be Service Channel, Corrigo, Vexa, any of the above, I'm good with that. Some people want to communicate through email. So ask the client right up front, what do you prefer? So that's my biggest thing is how, when you're coming in and working with a sign company, how is that sign company going to tailor their communication to your needs and what works best for you, your company, and your culture?
Well, and let me add to that though, too, Rhiannon, is that, even though we have 45 clients, we may have 45 different approaches because we definitely personalize those things to each individual client.
Right.
So, we have a framework, but we're going to make it to each client.
Exactly. Because it's all about protecting your brand's integrity. Like you will hear us say it again and again and again, whether it's you're reading a blog or you're listening to the podcast, whatever, your sign truly is your best salesperson. So you have to take care of it because it is kind of outside of your website. I'm speaking from my marketing side here. Outside of your website, like your sign is the kind of the linchpin of your brand in a lot of ways. So that's why we want to tailor our communication to you to make sure that we're able to support your brand, protect its integrity, all that good stuff. And that happens by communicating in a really positive, efficient way.
Well, and as much as we like to streamline the process and be efficient, yes, we're all about that. We want to make sure that we are knocking those signs out. One thing that we are known for, and also again, another question to ask is how many store openings have you had without signage? Yeah,
I'd have to be
that's really bad. It's really not a good
Yeah.
look when you're opening a new store. You got new open banners and all this stuff, and you don't have your signage on the wall.
Right.
So that's one thing to ask. So again, as much as we like to streamline the process, make things efficient, get that sign up on the wall, get through permitting process, we have to tailor our specific processes to the client because each client works differently. Each type of client works differently. And I mean, Lisa, as you well know, you work in many different industries. So even when you're looking at restaurant, retail, there's all different basically packages that come that we have to tailor our process to what works best for theirs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like Rhiannon said, as much as you want to make it automated, it can't be automated. So you cannot lose the personal touch in this industry. Sorry. I mean, you need to have the personal touch.
Yeah.
Right.
So next question kind of has to do with manufacturing. This really goes hand in hand with our project management process. And what we hear a lot is, or what we get asked a lot is, do you do your manufacturing in-house? And if so, where? And if you outsource, how do you do that, right? What does your manufacturing process look like? So Lisa, can you speak to the manufacturing side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the biggest questions that I get asked because, people want to make sure I'm not shipping in from China, if they give me their work, and not that that's a bad thing, but that's not what we do. So, my response to that is that, yes, we do have in-house manufacturing. We prefer to build in-house as much as possible, as long as it makes sense. We do have vetted partners across the country in different areas and regions, whether it be California, down in Georgia, Florida, New York. So I'm going to manufacture your sign where it's most cost efficient to do so for the project. And that is the response that we give because that's what we try to do. I mean, when project management brings in these locations, we will look at that when we're preparing our proposals. What makes the most sense? If I manufacture it in South Bend, but I have to ship it all the way out to California and I'm going to be paying $2,000 and $3,000 in shipping, why would I do that? I can build it in California with a vetted partner. And when I say vetted, we visit these facilities, we vet them, we make sure that they are building to our standards, to what we would build in house. We're very confident in providing that product. And we're transparent with the client about it, that if we do outsource, that it's not built in house, but, it's definitely from a vetted vendor.
Yeah.
So we do what makes the most economical sense for the client, which is actually what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to hit budgets, and it's all about price. I don't care what they say. It's all about it's, I mean, you get what you pay for. I will always say that. And, we have the service and everything to back it up. But we also want to make sure that we're providing a very high quality product. And so that's why we vet all of our resources that we use.
Yeah.
And that's what I also came to mind when you said the vetting process is the quality, because that's a question you get asked all the time, I'm sure,
Oh,
is
yeah.
how do you oversee the quality of our signage? And again, I think it also depends on the type of signage. We do a lot of very I know for one of our clients, we beefed up the signage because they're located in a hurricane area and we put specific structures in there. So it depends on the client as well and the type of signage. So if it's something special and unique, we do a lot of that in-house where we're making something that is very unique, something different, maybe for one of those stores that are like in downtown New York that have something specific.
Well, and I mean, too, when it comes to the quality, one of the things that I will always say, and I 100% know that we hold brand integrity. So when someone provides us with a spec for their signage, I'm not going to waver from that. I will not waver from that. Our company doesn't waver from that. So, we are going to build exactly what you are expecting us to build. So that's very important for us to vet our partners, because I don't want them to make exceptions and not tell me. So we check in on them to make sure they're building to our expectations.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. And, we have had clients in the past who have said, no, I only want my signs to be manufactured in your manufacturing facility. We'll make it happen.
And
We will 100% do that. But I think, if you're looking for a sign company, it's important to ask, who are your partners and how do you ensure that they are quality? Like, Lisa, have you yourself been to the facility where they're manufactured? What's your process? Who's checking in on that? Those are really, really important questions to ask to ensure that you are getting that brand protection, that brand integrity.
Oh, I've seen Lisa on the signage floor, manufacturing floor, many a
Oh,
time.
yes. Oh, yes.
Many a time.
I do like to go out there. I do like to check on things.
Right.
Especially with new clients. I'm just intrigued, when new signs come in and when we're in that developmental stage. I do like to go out and look at all of that and see how they're made. So,
Yeah.
Well, and
just
it's something to ask, too, with a client. We have a lot of guys that are in the shop or that have been with North American Signs for 20 years, 20 plus
40.
years. The
40 plus. Oh, wow.
knowledge in this
Yeah.
industry, in this trade is just
Well,
crazy.
it is crazy, and I will say it over and over and over again. I think we have some of the best sign builders in the country. They're hugely passionate about what they do. They are a wealth of knowledge. They like to be asked what their input is. It's an honor for them to be able to give their feedback, especially if I have a new client that's got a tricky sign and I'm trying to figure out how to manufacture it. Yes, we have estimators and things like that, but sometimes we'll have meetings and we'll pull them in to get their input on what's the best way to build this. And for them, that's an honor. And they've earned it. They've been there forever. So, I like getting their feedback. And not saying that I don't push back on it, but it's definitely something that I think is valuable from our side with our company is the knowledge that we have under our own roof.
Yeah.
So do you welcome when a client says, I got this idea? Can we do this?
I mean, I welcome the challenge. It's not usually the client, it's the designer. I always joke around about that the designer is the one that, when they create the artwork and they think the sign looks just beautiful right here, but they have not told me how they plan on getting it there. And so it's like, I have to work with all of that to, figure out how am I going to attach to this building? How are we going to get it that high up in the air? And those are not questions that come across their mind. So I do welcome those challenges and working through that with our shop and trying to figure out how are we going to actually do this. And sometimes you do have to reroute, and then go back to the client and say, we can't really do it this way, but we can do it this way. What do you think? So it is a kind of a back and forth interaction sometimes with those tricky ones.
Right. But it's cool to see that there's so much there's just integration across the whole company as far as who's invested in the brand, right? From the guy who's putting the screws together to the person who's doing the artwork to somebody like Lisa who's kind of and the project managers who are overseeing the entire process. Like you have input from all these different key players to make sure that your sign looks amazing and it works and it's going to get installed and be functioning correctly on time. So you're getting
That
the full package for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. That's a selling point for me, that I use and utilize, that we do have all of that under one roof.
Yeah, for sure. So the next question that we hear a lot has to kind of do with our installation and service. We get asked if we're self-performing, which is definitely a fair question to ask when we're talking about quality control. We talked a little bit about this in regards to manufacturing, but it also applies to installation. So Lisa, talk to me about how we handle those questions related to our installation network.
Absolutely. So the way that I answer that question is that we have an installer database, and we are partnered up with about 4,500 installers from coast to coast. And those installers and that database have been developed over years and years and years of use. And that we, at the end of every single project, our project managers, when they're closing out a job, they have to rate those installers. So this database, even though it's been developing for years and years and years, is actually very much up to date, so that it helps the next person coming into that area look at those reviews and look at whether they were bad, whether they were good, what went wrong. Because even though we might have had an installer that was just top notch and rocked it out for so many years for us, they've had changeover. And sometimes due to that changeover, they're not the greatest anymore. And we've had issues with them. And although disappointing, definitely needs to be noted so that the next person doesn't run into that situation. I usually explain to them, like I said, that we have that database, that we do update it, that it is current. We're forever adding new vendors. We vet those vendors. They do work for us. They are contracted by us. We are responsible for them. And that we do also have a regional department. So anything that was in Southern Michigan, Northern Indiana, a little bit into Illinois and Ohio, yes, we do utilize our own installation team. But, outside of that area, we used partnered installers that, like I said, we will supervise, we hire, and we will take responsibility for them being on the job site. And the fact that we vet them, is something that I'm very appreciative of, because that means that we are getting real time recommendations and not just archaic, they were great 5 years ago. So that I think, that is something I also think sets us apart from others, because I think a lot of these other sign companies don't have that database. They're calling around sometimes and trying to find partners in those areas and not necessarily having the history information that we have. So, because we've actually been called by other sign companies asking, hey, who do you use in this area? Because they know we have this database. So,
Right.
that's something that I think sets us apart from the rest.
And the fact that we really do view all of our installation partners as partners. They are
absolutely.
right. They are we hold them accountable to the integrity to upholding the integrity of your brand. And we've talked about this on the podcast before of how do you work with vendors and really treat them like partners, communicate with them like partners, and you're much more likely to get that really positive result when you've built that communication and trust over years and years and years, like we've been able to do 90 years, y'all. Woohoo. So,
Right.
right.
It's taken some time to get that database.
Absolutely. But it is for sure to the benefit of all of our clients that we have that database. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Rhianon, you get kind of a similar question, but obviously related to the maintenance side of things. So what do you tell folks who are asking, where do you work and do you self-perform?
I get it all the time, especially in the maintenance industry, because again, it's the industry as a whole. So we're dealing with plumbing, handyman, roofing, electrical, signage. So anything that falls under that, cleaning, safety, restaurant equipment, anything that falls under that umbrella is included in that industry. And so for me, I mean, that's definitely a question that most of these clients will ask, because a lot of them look for self-performing companies. So what I'm going to say, and this might be a little bit
A
controversial.
hot take, if you will. A hot take.
um, but if you are talking to a sign company and they say they self-perform, I would doubt that. I would be highly questioning that because yes, there are a lot of national sign companies and a lot of sign companies that have been around. If it is a sign company that's saying they're self-performing, I would say usually that's going to be like almost like a franchisee type of situation. So basically, in similar to us, and we've seen this happen where we used to work with partners for a very long time, and then all of a sudden their logo on their truck changed because a national company franchised them and used them under their name. So, and again, I'm not knocking that, but it's still a very similar situation. So, my question, and like I said, like Lisa said, I am very transparent. No, we do not self-perform. We have very long vetted partners that we have across the entire US, Canada, that we have looked at, vetted, and scored for years and years and years and years and years. So the next question is, okay, well, where is your best area that these techs are in? Well, that's hard too, because again, being around for 90 years and we're also kind of known for that. I mean, you got Dollar Generals in the middle of absolutely nowhere where there's a Dollar General and a gas station. There isn't on anybody else. So we're kind of known for those clients coming to us and say, I can't get anybody to get out here. It's in the middle of nowhere. Can you help me? And yeah, we can. 9 times out of 10, we have so many techs. And the thing that I like about our system, and this is something as a client I would ask, not only do we rate our techs, but how they are rated. So a lot of companies work within a system. So it's basically computer generated. So how long did it take the tech to respond to the work order? How long did it take the tech to get there to the site? How long did it take to complete the repair? So that's all good and fine and dandy. And I do think that that is useful for certain purposes. However, like we talked about earlier, we can't automate everything. And a lot of that is also communication. We might have a tech that completed the job fantastically, or, it was great. Everything looks good, but they didn't communicate well with us. So therefore, we can't communicate well with our client. So the difference between our system is every single time we are handwriting notes in there about what exactly happened on this job so that we can put, okay, yeah, repair was completed on time, great, but need much better, communication on the job, whatever that may be, so that we have date laid out and exactly what the program or the project manager thought about that location and that tech. And so what I also do is, like Lisa said, sometimes we have these techs that we've used for years, ownership change, things aren't going well. We have a very high standard of what we expect our tech to do, and we are communicating with them on a regular basis regarding that. If they are not meeting those expectations, I'm going to pull that job and get it to somebody else immediately. So because we have been around for a long time, we do have such long partnerships with these clients, and that does give a different edge compared to newer startup sign companies. It is a difference. But also, if you're really looking at self-performing, it depends on how many locations you have, and do you have the capacity to project manage those, basically, because if we're not doing it, you're having somebody else do it in-house, where you're calling those local tech, and it's some random person that they haven't established a relationship. We have that established relationship. So therefore, we have that pool with those techs that they say, hey, I can't get out there for 2 weeks. Jim, listen, I know you got a big install with North American Signs later on this week. You need to fit this repair in. This is how it's going to go. Okay. Yeah, okay, we'll squeeze it in. But I say that kind of in a joking manner, but it's so true. And it's so important to have that relationship with our tech.
It allows us to
Agreed.
just go above and beyond when the situation calls for it.
Oh, absolutely. It gives us that flexibility to meet that legendary customer service standard that we have as a company.
Yep, absolutely. So the last thing that we kind of want to cover is neon signage. And North American Signs, actually began as a neon sign company 90 years ago under the name South Bend Neon. And at that time, neon signage really was the primary way to provide that eye-catching signage day or night. And for a variety of reasons, obviously, neon signage is a less popular choice now, mostly because it's largely less cost effective, but we are seeing it kind of trending more now. And so we do get asked, can you do neon signage or can you fix my neon sign? And we've even heard, can you replace like for like? And that's, it's a challenging question for sure. So Lisa and Rhianon, what do we tell folks who need help with their neon, who say, can you fix my neon signs?
Typically I try to get them away from the neon, old neon. Old neon, because it's fragile, because it's expensive to replace, because it's a fire hazard. There are so many things with old neon that it's so beautiful. I get that. But there are so many resources and so many options right now for what we call faux neon, that you can get that exact same look in a much safer, much more cost-effective, efficient LED option. And typically, I get people swayed over to that option because neon manufacturers are few and far between. And it's very difficult to find anybody that still actually bends old neon. It is very, very difficult to find someone that bends old neon. I've had to do it. I did have a previous client that did use old neon, and that was definitely a learning experience. You want to buy it local because the local person needs to install it. The local person needs to service it. And like I said, it's very difficult to find anybody that will actually bend old neon anymore. So, I think the trend is it's definitely coming back, but with the faux neon option.
How cool is it that we started 90 years ago as a neon shop, and how everything
Yeah.
has transpired and what we do now, and looking at like the first faux neon and how big of a deal that was. And it was cool that we could do it, but it wasn't like as now it's getting more and more trendy because people are kind of liking that retro throwback look. Again, we do get asked quite frequently. So one thing that I am very upfront with on the repair side is we do have people who ask us to repair their neon. First and foremost, once we repair one neon unit, the odds of the other neon units going out is very high. So we tell them that very right up front is that we cannot guarantee once we replace this letter that more are gonna go out. So it's can be one of those that's a constant repair and cost. If it is just a transformer, we do those still. However, compared to what the transformer cost used to be to what it is now is significantly higher, 2-3 times of what it used to be. And that's because trying to get them is extremely hard. They're just not there anymore. And then also on top of that, there's a lot of states that are going away from neon altogether. Like the state regulations are not allowing it. And now we're even seeing that with fluorescent. So I suggest a lot of times when they have that, we will compare and we'll do quotes for our clients, both a repair of their neon and a retrofit, and compare them side by side so they can see that. And if they do like the look, yes, we can do the faux neon. So the technology, just like everything else, where it is today compared to what it was. Yes, I tell people to stay away from neon. Let's pull that out if we can. Let's get this sign up to date, up to code sometimes with state regulations, safety reasons. And a lot of times we talk about the trade skills gap. The newer tech coming through, they don't even know how to handle neon as much as. So you really have to have somebody that knows what they're doing. And if we get lucky that a location is close to somebody that does still do that trade and that specialty, we'll do it here and there, but mostly it's just the transformers now. It's not necessarily, it'll be a quick fix. So, and most people are surprised that the LED retro isn't that far off of what the neon repair is going to be because they are so costly right now.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, and just to give a little bit of kind of background on neon signage. Like the reason that it's really difficult is that neon signs actually involve different types of gases. And so in order to replace the gas inside the tubes, that takes a lot of specialized training. And then even if there's an issue with the tube itself and there's different coatings that have to get, it's really a whole thing, y'all. So
It is.
again, not that
Wow.
it's not impossible, but if you're asking for like on a large scale, that's going to be challenging. It's going to be expensive. And it's definitely worth at least looking into whether or not it's more effective to invest in some LED retrofits versus that pure neon.
And if you really like that look, investigate and look into the history of how much faux neon has that sign company worked with. How versatile can they be with the neon? What are the different types? There's so many different styles and types, and so really use your sign company as that knowledgeable partner to say, hey, here's kind of the look I want. What can we do? And they should be well versed in giving you good examples and even showing you samples of potentially signs that they've done in the past.
Well, and, like Rhiannon said, if they want to go replace one letter, the problem that you run into with, a real neon is gas. And the chances of that letter being a different color are very high because you just can't control that. I mean, that was one thing that, you'll find with the old neon that you're not going to get a color matte when you're going to replace that old.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other beauties of LED signage is that you can program that color to change if that's what you're looking for. So maybe you want your sign to look like neon and be blue, but the next day you want it to be green. Well, you can have that with LED. You definitely cannot have that with neon. So if you're looking for a little more flexibility, versatility with your signage, control, LED is definitely the way to go, for sure. Lisa, thank you so much for your insights today. It's always fun to have someone from NAS on the podcast with us. So just thanks for your insights and all of your industry expertise. Very valuable.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I was very excited to get my invite, and my first time I was a train wreck, but this has been a lot of fun. You guys made it easy on me. So hopefully I'll be able to come back sometime.
100%.
And once again, this has been a great episode. Thank you, Lisa, once again for joining us. And we hope to give you a sneak peek of our process so our listeners can be helped with their journey. Like we said, we just want to help you and answer your questions for any sign vendor that you may have. Just take it from somebody who, we've been around for 90 years. Yes, I'm that old.
Thanks, y'all, for joining us for today's episode. And thanks to just both Rhiannon and Lisa for sharing their insights. They really know what they're talking about. So I hope you got something valuable from today's episode. You can also sign up for our monthly InAssign newsletter, and that newsletter just provides more educational resources like what you get here on the podcast. We just send that once a month, so we're definitely not going to flood your inbox. But do let us know if there are other signage questions that you have. You can drop those in the comments below, or what questions have you found are valuable to ask your sign vendors? We're wanting to just start a conversation there. So get going in the comments, y'all. And until next time, keep innovating.